What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
A couple of reasons for the higher price of the Q7 compared to the Touareg can be named without even looking into the technicalities. The first one is a banal ranking of brands by status and the following nuances of car trim and equipment. The second is no less banal: age. After all, Touareg and Cayenne lead their history since 2002, and Volkswagen in 2006 has already waited for restyling, and Audi by that time has only just got on the assembly line. Accordingly, Q7 sat on the platform PL71, albeit finalized, the longest, if Volkswagen and Porsche changed generations and received an updated platform PL72 in 2010, the Audi was produced on the unchanged bogie until 2015, so long that the second generation immediately moved to the modular platform MLB Evo. However, for the audience all these peripecias were unimportant, because Q7 was initially prepared not by the same recipe that co-platformers. Here they immediately added 15 centimeters of wheelbase, the third row of seats, modern motors, and more options, so that the buyer of Audi felt the owner of the senior car in the family. In exchange, Q7 was deprived of a transfer box with a reducing row, because the task to move off the asphalt for it was secondary. True, even urban operation can spoil, in all senses, the car, and, in particular, the body. Let's start with it. The class of the car in the case of Q7 both benefits the body and complicates its life. On the one hand, it is qualitatively galvanized and painted. The chips do not rust for a long time, and the paint without damage suffers mainly from clouding of varnish. On the other hand, as it is supposed to the premium, Audi has a lot of external trim, which accumulates dirt under itself and retains moisture, which eventually leads to problems regardless of the style of operation. The entire lower perimeter of the car suffers, for the most part. The most obvious typical places are the sills and rear arches with two contis of seals, on the bottom and on the conti of the rear door. Rust appears here over time under the gaskets, even in well-maintained cars. Some owners have time to repaint the arches while the paint is still swelling, and in the most neglected cases, there may already be corpse there, forcing to cut out and replace part of the arch together with the sill. Front doors are less susceptible to damage, but of course they should also be inspected from below. Wide arches are also at risk, both from above, where they collect chips, and along the inner edge, where corrosion appears. Plastic arch extenders, available in some versions like S-Line, in Q7 sometimes become a forced tuning, to hide already existing defects or to protect the arches from new ones after repair. In general, it is worth asking about the situation under them. Another rust belt is the plastic moldings that girdle the underside of the car, including the doors and fenders. It can also be damp and sad underneath them, and the pockets of corrosion are sometimes the holes for the clips fixing these moldings. There are plenty of holes there, and yet not every owner buys a new set of clips and protective stickers when removing the plastic. Another chronic disease of Q7 can be considered as a bonus: rust crawling out from under the door handles. Other typical operational defects have not been eliminated either. On the aluminum trunk door, for example, the paint can swell in the area of the license plate area. In front, the windshield frame, which collects chips, is in the risk zone. There's not a lot of chrome on the car, but it does age and get cloudy. Bumpers can rub the paint at the points of contact with the fenders. Well, the panoramic roof adds the risk of water leaks into the cabin, so it is worth examining it not only for grooming and performance. To complete the picture of the body condition, you can look at the underbody. As we already know, Q7 was not positioned by the manufacturer. As a serious off-roader, it is important that the owners remember about it. The same is asked of the suspension. The schemes here are the same as those of its platform brethren: a double wishbone in front and a multi-lever at the rear, and operational difficulties are common. Levers are expensive, 10 to 20,000 for the original, but the assortment of substitutes and possibility to buy practically all silent blocks separately, and if you want, also original. In general, it will not be cheap, but the service is not ruinous. The only and traditional exception, air struts, which require good care and cost good money. The price tag on the original is inhuman, and decent substitutes cost from 60 to 70 and up to 100,000. There is, of course, the possibility to buy pneumo balloons for 20,000, but it does not cancel the need to pay for the work to replace them. As always, add here an aging compressor and souring sensors of a body position, and you will receive a typical picture of change. Of pneumo balloons for springs. However, it should be recognized that now it is quite realistic to maintain all this, especially taking into account the price of the car, so the main thing is desire. Q7 brakes are always big and powerful. In front they are 6-piston calipers and discs with a diameter of 350 mm. However, on the car with a mass of 2.5 tons, they still collect complaints, let not on efficiency, but on resource. However, the price of service here is quite acceptable. For example, even the original front brake disc costs 10,000 rubles. And the non-original can be bought many times cheaper. Attention should be paid to the condition of calipers and lines, the restoration of which can already cost a lot of money. But the real shock awaits those who dream of buying a Q7 with optional carbon ceramic brakes. The price of brake discs is absurdly shocking. For the cost of a set of 4 discs you can buy one more Q7. Yes, original discs cost about 400,000 per piece. And there are simply no non-original ones. In the network you can find reports about replacement of brakes under the extended warranty with partial payment of their cost, but usually instead of replacement of expendables at the price of the car owners just change the brakes complete with calipers to something more traditional, and in rare cases they bother with the manufacture of cast iron discs instead of ceramics to order. However, within the framework of our story, all this is more of a bedtime story. LED ceramics was offered as an option even for quite ordinary cars with 4.2-litre diesel engine, but only a few people ordered it. And buying a miraculously preserved car with ceramics today is obviously not a spontaneous, but a conscious act. The Q7 steering system is a conventional power steering system, and it does not cause any special problems. If the rack does not leak, the pump does not hum, the lines are intact, and the oil is not black, the diagnostics can be finished. And the price of error is not so great by class standards. The original rail for 150,000 can be ignored, and restored racks cost from 50 to 100,000. Transmission of these Audi is represented by 6-speed automatic before restyling and 8-speed automatic transmission after the 2010 update. Formerly, there were manual transmissions in the lineup, but such cars are practically not found in our country, at least, at the moment of writing the material, there was not a single one for sale on Avito. So it remains to understand what to expect from automatics. Until 2010, there were 2 options. On cars with moment motors in the face of diesels and gasoline V8 put TR60SN from Aisin, and with other gasoline engines combined ZF Series 6 HP 19 6 HP 21. The Japanese box is noticeably simpler and more reliable, and its only enemy is dirty oil. Subject to regular replacement, it can pass 250 to 300,000 kilometers, and its repair will be moderately expensive. German automatic transmission has more progressive design, and at the same time more aggressive algorithms of work, and its sensitivity to oil purity is even higher, as well as temperature modes. Now the probability of finding a pre-restyling car, where the automatic has never been repaired, is extremely low, so you need to find out as much as possible about the frequency of maintenance of the box and the details of its restoration. After 2011, the 6-speed automatic transmission was replaced by an 8-speed 8 HP 45 from ZF, which is familiar not only to European cars, but, for example, also to the Chrysler 300C. It is even more tricky structurally and demanding to temperature and oil cleanliness. And in the early years it had a number of childhood diseases. However, now, after at least 6 years, the first owners should have already coped with the problems, so it remains only to determine, by diagnostics, how alive the box is. And not to spare money for service, of course. Oil change once in 30 to 40,000 together with a filter in a pallet and an additional radiator of cooling can well postpone repair for 100 more thousand kilometers. Audi Q7 2009 to 15 dilemmas of motor choice in Q7 are practically the same as in relatives like the Touareg gasoline engines. Are expensive to maintain and do not always offer good service life, while diesel engines are reliable and good, but scare with potential investments in fuel equipment. In practice, diesel turned out to be the choice of the majority already in those years when these cars were new, and now on the secondary market about 2/3 of cars are equipped with diesel. The only gasoline motor that can be chosen with the expectation of a long life together is a V6 for 3.6 litres, offered before the restyling. Yes, there is a direct injection, not the most reliable chain timing and a tendency to oil consumption, but the block is still cast iron. The resource of cylinder piston group is not bad, and the cost of solving many problems is moderate. True, age is a letdown. Pre-wrestling cars in any case are already more than 10 years old. But if you fundamentally want a gasoline copy, there is actually no choice. The older V8 of 4.2 litres, offered before restyling, is noticeably more capricious and risky to buy. Here to the problems of direct injection and chain timing. The probability of scoring in cylinders is added, and the cost of repair is absolutely inhumane. 3-litre supercharged V6, which appeared after restyling, also suffers from problems with scoring, which were usually solved under warranty. But buying a car with it now is also associated with unjustified risks. Diesels against this background are just salvation. Operating temperatures are lower, there are no problems with the piston, and their fuel system and supercharger have quite predictable life. The easiest choice, as in the case with the Touareg, the basic diesel V6 for 3 litres. It is worth considering that during the release of the model, the motor has not remained unchanged. In particular, it received a major update in 2011, so from the early motors like Casa, newer variants like CCMA and Carter differ fuel, equipment and supercharger. But globally, maintenance costs haven't gone up, so the more recent piezoelectric injectors shouldn't be considered a reason to look for an older car. If you get a good car with a diesel 4.2, it will be a good choice. However, the cost of its maintenance is higher, not least because of the transportation tax of 50,000 rubles. But the monster diesel V12 for 6 litres is the choice of rich enthusiasts. The gearbox and transmission as a whole for it are fragile, the cost of maintenance is high, and also aggravating circumstances. Like the same carbon ceramic brakes should be taken into account. In general, great opportunities, great responsibility. Well, now, having briefly found out why Q7 is asked for such money, let's form a portrait of an optimal copy. Even, we can say, a copy of the portrait, approximately the same thing we saw in Volkswagen Touareg. The choice of a far-sighted buyer, who expects to drive the Q7 for a long time and happily. It is a 3-litre diesel engine, which is within 250 horsepower in terms of transport tax and 15 litres per 100 in terms of fuel consumption. For our 2 million you can choose from the best cars. On the market there are still copies from the first owner with mileage up to 150,000. About like this, and if Autoteca will confirm accident-free history and honest mileage, then a premium crossover for 2 million, albeit at the age of 6 to 9 years, can be no less pleasant purchase than a new Sportage or Tiguan. Isn't it? In conclusion, the Audi Q7, priced at 2 million rubles, presents a compelling case for those seeking luxury and performance. While it may be twice as expensive compared to some alternatives, its blend of advanced technology, spaciousness, and driving experience can justify the investment for many buyers. Ultimately, whether it is worth the price depends on individual priorities and preferences. If you value quality and are willing to pay for it, the Audi Q7 could be a worthy addition to your garage. Thank you for watching, and we hope this analysis helps you make an informed decision.